Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor. Thanks for joining us. Well, Lia Thomas, the center of so much controversy over women's sports. This is the man who competed as a woman, tied Riley Gaines. Of course, Riley Gaines has been on this program quite a bit to speak out about keeping women's sports for women and keeping women's spaces like locker rooms and restrooms safe for women. Yeah, Lia Thomas has finally spoken out. This is a podcast, and Lia addressed these issues. Take a look.
We respect her identity. We just don't think it's fair. You can't really have that sort of half support where you're like, oh, I respect her as a woman here, but not here. They're using the guise of feminism to sort of push transphobic beliefs. And I think a lot of people in that camp sort of carry an implicit bias against trans people, but don't want to, I guess, fully manifest or speak that out. And so they try to just play it off as this sort of half support.
They think about how twisted feminism, quote unquote, feminism has become. Their arguments, you know, in order to exclude anybody in the trans category, you have to reduce women to reproductive capacity, which is, in my opinion, extremely anti-feminist. I don't want to put those women down either, and I know you don't want to either, because I see pain. I see pain, and the pain is coming from somewhere. It's not you, though. It's the patriarchy. And how can we get people to see that?
Oh, we respect.
Isn't that sweet? Isn't that sweet? We feel your pain. We know you're just acting out against the patriarchy. We're on your side. We're an ally. Well, listen, I'm a cisgendered white Christian male, actually born male and continue to represent as male. So I'm not allowed to have an opinion about this, but we've got someone who is allowed to have an opinion, Rebecca Cutsinger. Although, I don't know, maybe you're not allowed to have an opinion. Let's hear what it is. She's the chapter president of the network of Enlightened women over at James Madison University. This is really rich, isn't it? How condescending can they be?
Well, you see, Larry, condescending, you know, is a very good word. I find it really interesting that they bring up the patriarchy, because feminism, right, does use the patriarchy to explain, okay, men are always CEOs. We need to push women into STEM. We need, you know, down with the patriarchy. Well, isn't it ironic to say the patriarchy exists? Yes, men becoming a wolf in sheep's clothing, dressing up like a woman, and then taking opportunities away from women, taking away podiums, taking away scholarships, taking away trophies.
Yeah.
That is the definition of oppressing women. That is the patriarchy.
Well, and also, let's face it, I mean, men are often viewed as predators in our society, sadly, rightly so in some cases. There's some horrible men out there. So now here's a fully grown, intact man who, by the way, is still attracted to young women, showing up in a women's locker room, forcing those women to have to undress next to him. And if you're uncomfortable with it, it's because of the patriarchy. That's what the man says.
It's ridiculous. The Network of Enlightened Women chapter here at James Madison University hosted Riley Gaines 2 weeks ago. And when she spoke about this, we had a packed room, standing room only. So many people on campus want to hear about this issue. So many people on campus want to support Riley. I had 2 individual female athletic teams at JMU, not my own. I am a JMU cheerleader. 2 other athletic teams at JMU reach out to me and say, hey, we love what you're doing. We support Riley so much. Please share with her tonight our support. And I said, I would love to include that in my opening statements. And they asked me not to for fear of retaliation. They asked me to not share publicly that these 2 female sports teams want Riley to keep speaking out about these things.
Wow. For
issues like this, because they feel now unsafe in their own spaces. And Riley calls for protecting women's protected spaces. And I completely agree that because of the statistic of men hurting women, we need that.
Rebecca, by the way, you're also a cheerleader at James Madison University. That is a sport. It is a co-ed sport. You compete alongside men, but men and women in a cheerleader team have very different roles. Yes. Within that team. I mean, this isn't about trying to keep anybody out of competitive sports. This is just about men and women having specific roles in those sports.
Yes, very clearly. I think that Riley talks about maybe having a third category for other athletes that don't fit into our traditional male and women sports categories. We already separate sports based on gender because of this clear biological advantage that men have. So having a third category to be inclusive and allow them to compete in sports while keeping the integrity and fairness in sports alive is something I definitely believe in. But I think my own experience is something that really shows why men's sports are not at risk here. I had a transgender individual on my cheerleading team here at James Madison University. This individual was a woman who had transitioned to become a man and was acting as a man on our cheerleading team. We all lift weights together. The boys that throw me on a regular Monday or Tuesday deadlift 300, 400 pounds in gym, and I'm probably downplaying some of them. This individual could not keep up. This individual couldn't keep up in the weight room and couldn't keep up on the field. And that is why this individual was never a dignified member of our team. They were considered a redshirt freshman, and then made the team as a manager their second year. Our entire team saw how this individual could not keep up with the other boys because even though they were taking testosterone, they were not a biological male.
That is fascinating, actually, and an important insight, and makes a very valid point. By the way, I do love the fact that in the sport of cheerleading, you just openly say, yeah, these guys throw me around. I just think but it's true. That's what they do.
Well, Larry, you have to understand, not only do they throw me, but they also have to catch me.
Yes.
And there's a safety concern here.
That's right.
There's an immense amount of trust that goes into these relationships with guys that throw me wildly high in the air, and then I have to trust that they're going to catch me and I'm not going to hit the ground. And as somebody who needs to have trust in the people underneath them, if I see an individual on my team clearly struggling, I'm not going to want that person underneath me.
There's another aspect of this that I do want to talk about, though. At the very beginning of this interview, Lia Thomas says something that I think actually has some truth to it, and that is, there are these women out there who sort of give us lip service. They say they support us, but then when push comes to shove, if they don't accept everything that we demand, well, they're not really being supportive of us. And I think that is actually a pernicious problem in this debate, that there's a lot of women, probably like the people that you talked about on your campus, who said, we love what Riley's doing, just leave our name out of it. They like to say, oh, let people live and live. They have their own lives. Why do we want to be mean to them? And I'm all for live and let live, except when you start intruding on the safety and the livelihoods and the opportunities of innocent individuals and take that safety and livelihood away from them. How do we navigate this debate, Rebecca? You're there at ground zero. You're actually fighting it every day at a college campus.
I think, thank you for bringing up that point that Lia made, because I do think that the only way that we win this argument is through kindness and compassion and understanding. I do not want anyone to think that I hate them or that I want to push them out of sports or that we want to, alienate them on campus. That's not at all how we feel.
Yeah.
We lead with kindness, you lead with love. And the loving viewpoint, the loving aspect of this is fairness. Men have a clear biological advantage against women, and protecting women's sports and protecting safe spaces is the true loving way to fight this argument.
That's very well said, and I think it should be noted that Lia Thomas's position here is, you don't really support us unless you meet every single one of our demands. Otherwise, you're, speaking on behalf of the patriarchy or whatever it is that gobbledygook was. It's revealing. I want Lia Thomas out there doing as many interviews as possible. I think it really does shed light on this. Rebecca Cutsinger, the network of enlightened women. I love that to be enlightened nowadays, all you need to do is say, you know what, there's a difference between men and women. That's real enlightenment. Well done. Our best to James Madison University. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight. You're watching Salem News Channel.